Stop it! Stop it! She does look like a man. And I will never, ever stop saying so, whatever Twitter does.
Flavor of his work, here are a few headlines, and I'm not making this up. Birth control makes women unattractive and crazy. Would you rather your child had feminism or cancer?
I had to go to the urgent care center that day because I'd hurt my arm. Too much fist pumping.
And she reads out with a straight face, with that sort of, you know, swallowed a lemon kind of thing. No, it's just like pissing off your grandma at Thanksgiving. And she's like, you know, to give you a flavor of his work, here are some headlines, and I'm not making this up. Birth control makes women unattractive and crazy. And her own audience burst out laughing because it's so funny. Yeah. And so and then she stumbles over the next one and finally gets it out. Would you rather your child had feminism or cancer? And she's looking around the room for someone to be horrified along with her. And her own audience is just being like, I gotta look this up. You know? But the real thing about it was that she was attempting to present these as sort of like wacky, hateful, fringe, lunatic, woman-hating kind of, you know, blog posts from some whatever. Actually, when people then go and Google it and they read about it and they're like, guy's hilarious. You know, like it's really funny. And this is full of evidence and facts, and it's like, wow, maybe I shouldn't be on the pill.
And this is a big...
Because I might turn into Hillary Clinton.
And this is a big evolution.
But of course, she doesn't need to be on the pill.
You're reading the National Enquirer again.
No, I always make this joke about, you know, the only thing she likes more than clamping down on free speech is scissoring. And only some audiences get it. But
we hear this a lot from scientists, you hear a lot in particular from female scientists, but the fact is that there is some reason to suppose that there is an advantage to being a man in certain subjects. There's reason to suppose that gender essentialism, biological determinism, whatever you want to call it, the fact that there are male brains and female brains, may indeed have some basis in science. Now, this is sort of thrown out of the window completely by feminists and female academics who just refuse to accept that there's any reason whatsoever why there might be a gender imbalance. Two things on that. One, actually the science is very much still out on that. And two, if you look at equality in society, if you look, for example, at Bangladesh versus Norway, what you notice is the number of women in science and technology subjects actually goes down as societies get more equal, because women simply don't make the same choices that female academics and feminists would like them to. Women actually don't want to go into the sciences on the whole, and when they have every option available to them, they tend to choose not to.
Right. These figures...
you must understand.
These figures are... You're going to accuse me of mansplaining, aren't you? These figures come from averages across society. They don't take into account the different life choices that women make. The reality is that women do prefer a more balanced life. When they go to work, even if they don't have babies, they take longer holidays. They tend to take more holidays. And the reason that you know, they are paid more, up to about 30, 35, 39, depending on whose figures you believe. The reason that flips
only between 30 and 39.
No, that's actually not true. The reason that the figures flip after that age is because women make different life choices.
Right.
And if you take those life choices into account, no serious economist believes this stuff. It's repeated by politicians right up to President Obama, but no serious economist takes the wage gap seriously.
A particular brand of feminism which holds almost total sway in the media and in gender studies and women's studies departments. There are honourable exceptions. But by and large, I don't expect you to comment on any of your colleagues, but a lot of your colleagues are off-the-wall mental. And in... We're in a situation now where students can go to university, they come out dumber than when they went in. They are infantilized by safe space and trigger warning culture. The idea that interrogating a new idea, coming into contact with a school of thought or a person that doesn't conform to your prejudices is somehow problematic, that it gives rise to trauma. This evening, there is a safe space at Michigan University to protect the safety and emotional well-being of students from this dangerous faggot and a lesbian with the wrong opinions. That is insane.
I'm sorry to be rude. I'm sorry to be rude, but, you know, get a lot of platitudes and then a lot of contradictions from my right, because you say, well, we should have investigated diplomatic solutions, and yet you admit that the rebels haven't come to the table. I wonder
No, I disagree with you.
How do you what is your strategy for negotiating with a brick wall? Because it's quite difficult to negotiate when there's only one party.
I disagree with you. If a process hasn't worked, it doesn't mean that you don't keep going. I think what was really significant today...
Do you agree or do you disagree that the rebels have refused to even contemplate? And in any case, who would you approach, by the way? Because this is not an organisation with a figurehead. This is a coalition. Exactly. Who exactly are you going to negotiate with?
So that is why you need a different strategy.
Nobody even knows who to talk to.
No longer fit for purpose. The Democrat Party is a mess. The Republican Party deserves to be destroyed. It is no longer fit for purpose. It disrespects and betrays its own base. It no longer practices conservative principles in government. It deserves to be ripped in two. If we believe in a conservative vision of the world, the Republican Party is not going to get us there.
Well, it's extraordinary, isn't it, to hear about the fact that there's apparently a problem with women worrying about being too thin. That's, of course, not the problem. The problem is that everyone's getting too fat. And actually, there's no evidence, really, that any of this stuff has much of an impact. A lot of the science is very fuzzy on this. It's social science stuff rather than any real sort of reports or anything. I mean, what worries me about all of this kind of stuff is the implication that somehow we're going to make people's lives happier or better by encouraging them to believe that whatever body shape they are and whatever they look like, they're beautiful and they're going to be happy. That's evident. That's quite clearly not the case. I mean, if you look at women's happiness has been going down since the Second World War. Actually, every decade, women are getting more miserable as they get told that they can be who they want and look how they like. And you can say, I suppose, that a woman's self-esteem should have nothing to do with whether or not a man's sexual preference, sort of coincides with how she looks. But the fact is, women are getting more unhappy. And this sort of slightly irresponsible trend to sort of encourage people to eat whatever they want and do whatever they want is is one of the things that's fueling an obesity crisis. And that's a really serious thing. That's a real thing. That's something that's got health implications. It's got cost implications for the NHS. The problem isn't too many anorexic women. The problem is quite in the opposite direction. We're perfectly happy to have aspirational role models in our entertainment. We should have them too in our retail. There's nothing wrong with encouraging people to live healthily. It comes down to an issue of personal responsibility. No cloud service is ever going to be completely secure. Apple does have a responsibility to make its software as secure as possible, but there will always be hackers who are much smarter and much cleverer and are much more determined to exploit vulnerabilities. What this boils down to, for celebrities just like everybody else, is personal responsibility. And if you're going to take pictures of yourself like that, by far the most intelligent thing to do is do it with a Polaroid. Don't do it on a device that's connected to the internet, that's sending your pictures to servers you don't control. It's a recipe for madness. And for somebody who is as rich and as famous as Jennifer Lawrence is, it's sort of unbelievable.
Because they're higher in the victim pyramid than we are. The silence of feminism, and indeed the immediate victim blaming of young German girls after the sexual assaults in Cologne, and loads of others as well. There was a transgender couple that were beaten up after some Syrians found out they weren't really women. Women all over Germany being abused. 1,400 girls gang raped in Rotherham in the UK because the progressive authorities were scared of appearing racist and didn't police it properly. And that's not, feverish tabloid right-wing media. That's a government report that said it. This stuff is horrifying. Importing cultures which genuinely represent patriarchy, which embody all of the things that third-wave feminists say they hate, and importing these people en masse into our communities in Europe has been an unmitigated disaster.
Not only that people under 16, 15 don't like them very much, but they're also getting, for the first time, BuzzFeed is starting to get as many dislikes as likes on its videos, because people are realizing there are no social consequences attached to saying, do you know what, this race baiting is not okay, this gender baiting is not okay. What I'm discovering as I talk to colleges, actually, is that the millennial generation, which many of us have written off as a generation that cares more about feelings than facts, has been very unfairly represented by a small vocal minority. Now, that minority has power on campuses, has power in the media, has power in the entertainment industry, has power in academia, all sorts of different environments. But I have faith that the millennial generation is more sensible than that. And I think the proof in the pudding, which hasn't really been seen before, is my college talks. You get my college talks, right? I go and I speak to people about free speech and all the rest of it. You see this, like the internet is played out in real life in the audiences in my talks. You get Trump supporters, Black Lives Matter, feminists, classical liberal, all these people, and then you've got like Trump chants versus the Black Lives Matter. It's an amazing thing.
the level of...
And then I'll wave afterwards.
Right. The level of intellectual diversity in that generation is very much not what you would think if all you ever read was BuzzFeed.
In the statistics that you're saying is
American
less.
college campuses are among the safest places for women to be. And people who peddle the lies are like 1 in 3, 1 in 4, want to tell women they're the most dangerous places you can be. It's a lie. In what possible universe is that responsible or caring behaviour? That's not the behaviour of somebody with integrity. That's the behaviour of somebody with a political agenda who cares nothing for the facts.
Is there anybody in here who hates me? Anyone? Yes, there we go. Thank you. I'm afraid, this is an event for 7s and above, so anyone who just put their hand up, please leave.
Cyber touch is recognized as equally as harmful as a physical touch. From the people who brought you Saudi Arabia, chair of the Human Rights Commission. I mean, my God, if only it were true. If Father Michael had only cyber touched me when I was 5, maybe I wouldn't be such a fag. I only wish it were true.
But it mystifies me why Americans have sort of accepted. And I think I know what it is. I think it's basically that your parents' generation of Republicans are spineless cunts. And I think that the problem is they've just accepted that any disagreement can they basically just have to concede ground to liberals so they don't get called racist. And liberals have worked out that this strategy works, and they're now so into this strategy, they realize how effective it is. You know, you could just call, and they've ramped it up now, they could white supremacists, anti-Semitic, all this kind of bogus fucking horse shit. Because they think it still works. They haven't cottoned on that with, that they did that pretty regularly to Trump and dudes in the White House. It's like that. I think we might have got past that now. I think we might have got past the era when name-calling was an acceptable substitute for argument. But your parents' generation of Republicans, I just had pie charts. What are you talking about? Your parents' generation of Republicans conceded almost every major issue because they didn't want to get called names by the left. And people are sometimes, they sometimes accuse me of name-calling, which is a horrible allegation. My response to them is, well, first I do try to keep, unlike the conspiratorial social justice left, do try to keep the main thrust of my speeches and journalism closely anchored to the facts. But second of all, you guys have been lying to and lying about Republicans, calling them racist, sexist, homophobic, and all manner of other ludicrous allegations for 30 years, and you deserve some of it back once in a while. If we adjust for idiots in the room, there are a good couple of hundred of decent people in here. Nice, compassionate, ordinary, decent people who are pretty fucking tired of being called bogus names by people like you. So given the fact that you run academia, you run the media, and you run the entertainment industry, if the worst you have to deal with is some British fag calling you a butch dyke, deal with it.